hate that that echoes so much. But I've dealt with it and it doesn't
Yeah.
do anything.
Have them come in, we should have them best stuff, that's great.
There's some things I'm like, oh,
But I don't really know, even with my TVs at home, I never really know for sure what I'm supposed to clean them off with, like just a rag. And I don't think we're supposed to
I
really
use
use any.
Windex.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's what you're
I
supposed to
don't
do,
either.
but what I do.
Yeah, here's fixed it. Yeah. So will Taylor just sit by you?
You can. Yeah, I can scroll over you can chill with me
Okay.
if you want.
Yeah.
No, I'm up here.
Yeah.
Separate.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not so.
Went to the sewer meeting today, made me think of it because your shirt even has buttons. And the man that was, I don't know exactly what his title is, but he's the one that always does all our meetings. He had, well, it's like maybe the third button from the bottom was buttoned in the wrong hole. And so he kind of had this, I've done that before.
Yeah.
Kind of this, and I thought, he's gonna go home tonight. And he's going to be
How about we just not do anything?
Yeah,
And
sometimes.
Skip this here so that the cameras help.
Where's the camera at?
Right here.
Oh, it's right there. Jeez.
I said.
Bill, you wanna switch spots?
Bryce, you're cute.
No, no. No, let me see. I guess it doesn't.
Just take it down.
Well, water stand for.
How about
Turn it this way.
camera?
This way.
Hey, that's
how you
got it.
Yeah, you should. get mine over here.
So, I don't know if Ryan's coming tonight, did we hear otherwise that he wasn't, Ryan, did we hear anything? But we had a little bit to cover, so I think we might as well go ahead and get started with our work meeting on November 21st, so thank you for being here. While Cam is getting off the stuff set up, a couple of things. Did you all notice and receive the email that we did for us, the moderating housing? At first it came back with a glitch because one of our maps was not included. So Morgan included the map, sent that, and so that was.
Ever review that plan? I mean, what is our modern income housing plan? And I mean, like you explained, it didn't pass first, but now it did because of the map. But
Because of a map.
did we ever review that?
We did, at one of our city council meetings, we reviewed it, and there,
When was that?
when
Remember?
was that due? I don't remember.
September, so-
Versus September, but the strategies we had were the same ones from last year. So but I think for next year, we really should start on it sooner, because one of the things you probably noticed in the report, they said two of our strategies are quite similar. And so we probably want to maybe look at that. So, maybe not before now on Christmas, but maybe at the beginning of the year, we maybe should start looking at that, because it kind of, what crept upon me, you probably were aware, but it crept upon me when it was due. But
So if the strategies that we have aren't complete, I mean, we started something, but it hasn't finished, are they saying you have to come up with a new one, even though that one, say like there's I'll say like our over 55, where it's not totally built out. Does that, we have to have a strategy to replace that when it's not done? That's,
no, and they said we can just keep having the same ones. I think that note they had in our email was just that two of them kind of were the same, that we might want to, and I think what they really want us to do is, so we have to just prove we have progress, and I think that's what we did. I think we could say, because one of them was on ADUs, and there was a couple of new ADU things we had passed. So any of that, as long as it shows we're working on them, I don't think we have to always come up with new ones, from my understanding. So in Madison, if you remember, Madison was the one that came in, she was the one that was kind of working on that. And she said after that there was just one zoning map she thought was on the same page as something, but it wasn't. And so when it was submitted, we were just to remind us that one map. So, but yeah, I think come January, let's look at those, and so we can be working on them. So, well, okay, maybe we'll keep going for just a minute until Ryan comes, because he had some questions. I know you went and looked at KSOS. Bryce, thoughts on?
There's probably too much work. I don't think it'll qualify for. It's just.
not this year anyway.
Not this year.
That's what Jared had said.
Yeah,
He
it's
thought it was
pretty,
too much.
and what, actually putting a definition on what we want to do with it, that would be kind of hard. There's a lot of work to be done.
You could do it in phases starting next year.
Yeah, the roof is leaking. There's 3 different spots. I have one question. When we went in there last time, I took some pictures and there was a ton of records in there. That was only like 3 boxes.
Like, are you checking vinyl records?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like there was a bunch of them. So, in fact, Jared, we kind of made a joke. Jared popped one off, and I think Brian Googled it. And I thought, this is worth $50 on eBay or whatever. So
what room were the records in?
they were in various rooms.
Um,
Now they're all kind of in a pile. I think there was 3 small boxes. That's too bad. So I don't know if someone broke in there and took them or what, but anyway.
No, okay, I can ask Jared if anybody knows. I didn't know we had records.
Yeah, there was quite a few.
Yeah.
You saw, did you see them? Yeah, there was a lot.
They were all in the small office rooms.
Yeah,
At first,
Right.
they weren't in the big room. But
Yeah. that was big.
Just ask the public works guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We've ordered the plaque. So, Jared found that, you mentioned, Dale, that Jared had actually drawn one up, but he said he had it approved. So that is ordered, and I think it should be done even maybe by tomorrow. This is what
Okay.
Jared gave me, that he said that Bruce had approved this, the plaque for the organ. So I just sent that to Crown Trophy. But these are just my notes, because I took a picture of it and I had to tell him the dimensions. And then he asked me what we wanted, and he gave me, the Crown Trophy, I told him the color of the organ. He recommended gold to black, which I don't even know 100% what that means, but I thought, well, if you do this all the time and you think that'll look good on a brown organ, I can kind of fine with that. So, and I think it might even be back as far as tomorrow, to even maybe have approved, it'll be done, and then we'll just have someone mount that on. I don't know. Yeah. So I think that would be good. And then one other thing, just to remind you, read the ethics pledge, just said by next meeting. So we don't need to today. He just said by next meeting, if we have a chance to go through that. So, okay, so we're happy to have Cammie here with us. So she's going to, we thought, maybe use a little bit of time if you have any questions as far as on the financials or anything before we.
Want to go through them, or what would you prefer? Or do you want to ask me your questions?
Somebody have one copy? You need a hard copy? You have one?
You wanted to make a copy of my homework? Okay.
Maybe we'll have to go through that, and I'll give you a couple more announcements. We still are in the need of a crossing guard. We don't have one. So currently West Haven City, Hooper City employees are sharing the duty of being the crossing guard. West Haven did it this week. Hooper City's doing it next week. West Haven's advertising, putting a lot of signs around. I'll announce it again. I've had a couple of people contact me saying, oh, we might be interested, but then they never went and applied. So if you know of anyone.
What employees, is that like public works
So
employees or?
Jared assigned Benson to do that, Benson and Mujo. So he went and was trained today, I believe, with West Haven. And so then he's going to be doing that for us next week. So like I say, if anybody knows of anybody, that's something that we need to work on.
Is it gonna be, are they gonna share it? Are we gonna share it with West Haven, like once a week or every other week?
Every other week until we get someone actually hired.
Oh,
Yes, so we'll do it next week. First week of December will be West Haven, then it'll be us again. So we hope that we really can get someone hired. So we're gonna do that. And then just another note, I had to, LPC. I don't know if you've been noticing, but we've been having monthly meetings with the LPC. So I didn't know if you and Dell are still interested in doing that. Anybody else?
yeah, I just haven't been able to catch them,
So
so.
that's okay.
Yeah.
So there's, starting January is when, once the legislative session starts, they'll be every week.
Yeah,
So just be thinking about it, and we can talk about that again if you want to still, we just have to have those 3 voting we can have up to 3 voting members.
okay,
So,
right, yeah. I've had trouble getting my email when I open it, I get this encryption.
oh no,
And so, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it goes through, but then I'll open the email and it'll be, encrypted, so.
yeah.
It's kind of ghostly, frustrating.
Okay, it's been there right now. We'll start to talk then about this.
Okay, I'll just go through it then, I guess, and if you have questions, stop me, or we can talk about anything. I'm, of course, always open. You guys are welcome to call me. I know I've talked to several of you, Dell, I talk to you once in a while, and same with, Debbie and stuff, so I'm happy to talk about anything, and go over things and help you understand, so feel free to reach out to me, I did bring some business cards if you want me to. Into one bite. Anyways, overall, there's a couple of things that I just was kind of excited to go through. First off, we did break out those enterprise funds. So we now have a sewer fund, we have a garbage fund, and we have a storm water. So that's kind of nice, so we can actually see where things are at with the entity and how each kind of section is funding itself or lack of funding for itself to help us cover the expenses and the revenues for those utilities. I personally really like to break those out because it does give us a better idea where we're at with our fees and what fees are maybe covering or where our fees are at on a regular basis. So that's just one thing I wanted to just kind of point out, that we have done.
Just tell us that one more time on garbage, sewer.
So it's gonna
Storm
be
water.
garbage, sewer and storm drain, or storm water, yeah, sorry, I say storm drain because I said storm drain and I
Same
was corrected by
thing.
Jared, storm water. There's a difference, so anyways, but yeah, so you'll see those in the financials now that you now have a fund 20, 22, and 23. And those are those funds broken into different categories. So if you look back on the printed financial pages, you'll see like from page 11 and 12 are your sewer. Pages 13, 14, and 15 are your garbage. And then pages 16, 17, and 18 are now your stormwater. So that way we can monitor closer. I think it's a lot easier to, you know, try and see where the money's at with those fees. Because the idea is that, you know, garbage is supposed to pay for itself, sewer is supposed to pay for itself, stormwater is supposed to pay for itself, that type of thing. So it kind of gives us a better idea as to where we're at on those fees and what we've got to afford to do things with. So I'll just kind of go over the general fund. Again, stop me if you have questions or if you want to discuss anything. And we'll just go like that. So right now, overall, with our revenues, we're about 23.9% of revenues, and we're 34% of the year. A lot of that is because we have not collected our property taxes yet. That typically comes in one big chunk, and that's more in a couple of months that we'll see that property tax come in. So that some of it is because of timing of those particular things coming in. So that's on page 3, sorry. Page 3 is the revenues. Stop me, Belle, but please. So actually go back a few more pages. It's the one that is like kind of a smaller printing. Sorry, like the cell financial. I'm kind of using both
Okay.
sets to kind of go through it, but
Okay.
my summary kind of explains what these are in the back. So I try to point out some key things, but so yeah, you'll see that, you know, our property taxes, we've only collected 2.8. Well, that's because we get a big chunk in throughout. I believe it's November that we actually get it, isn't it? But we'll get one big chunk, so that's why that's kind of a little bit lower. Plus Class C roads fund, that has not come in at all yet. I suspect that will come in this next month. So that's kind of some of those things that they come in periodically, not all the time, every month. So that's why we're a little bit lower. Overall licenses, we're sitting pretty good. Taxes, again, we're low because of those things. Intergovernmental, we're a little nothing because they haven't been submitted from the state yet. Charges for services, we're about 20%. Fines, we're about 38%. And then if you go to page 4, our miscellaneous, we're about 44%. And then this unknown, I did find out what that was, and that was a grant, but it was after I'd already printed these, so I'll recategorize that to that grant, but that's what that is, so. So that's on the revenue side. The expenses, pretty much everything's within budget except for a few categories. You know, the categories that are kind of over their 34% is going to be your recreation. And also your parks is at 33.4, so they're really close. Everything else is sticking under budget. The recreation is due to Tomato Days, which, as you probably noticed in my summary there, I kind of broke out Tomato Days and gave a brief explanation as to why it was more expensive this year than previous
Let me
years.
ask you something
Uh-huh.
on miscellaneous on page 4.
Yes.
What's the other?
That other on that, I believe, and I can turn off the detail, I was hoping to have my computer up and do it, but it won't connect to the other computer. So I believe that's just like some various fees that we may be collected. I can print that off and get a better detail for you on that.
Okay.
So, and I'm happy to do that by all means, so. Like I said, I was hoping that I would have that up, but won't connect to the other room, so anyways, but. So yeah, the Tomato Days, we brought in less revenue than the previous year. Some of that is because in the past we've had 22,000 in grant, we did not receive that. But we did receive, so that went down, but we only went down a total of 18,500. So we did receive some additional funds from contributors. But we just didn't get that grant, and that really killed on what we expected the revenue to be. Plus, the expenses did go up. Your candy usually is donated. We did not get that donated. That was $1,100. There was the performances increased by 2,400. The belt bucklers increased by 1,200. There was a new roping event that we did, which was 3,000. The cost of the tent rentals was 2,200. Additional cost on the fireworks is 3,300. And then some additional entertainment for 1,200. So things unfortunately gone up. I think it's, definitely something we need to narrow in on and decide how the council wants to address it in the future. I think it's definitely something that, needs to be addressed with the budget.
So not getting that grant hurt pretty bad.
Oh, yeah, that really hurt, but also the cost of everything going up. I mean, that was a pretty big chunk in all the costs when you add all those up and, it's just everything nickel and dime a little bit more. And it does kill, and unfortunately, that's the economy we're in.
And I think we talked
So-
about writing possibly 3 grants, maybe to go along with Tomato Days. We tried to write one for the rodeo. I think we approved, do one for entertainment, and even if we wanted some kind of arts program. So hopefully that'll help. It really does hurt when you.
Yeah, so, and I mean, I think even, as we start doing the budget process, I was mentioning that maybe we need to have Aaron, put together a budget for each event that we're trying to offer within Tomato Days. And then we decide what events we really want to fund within the city, if we need to reconsider some of those events. Or if they're all so valuable, great, then let's fund it, but you as a council need to approve that and say, these are the things we're going to offer, because it is a great community event. And everybody would be just irate if we didn't have it, of course. So it's not that, but it's necessarily that we go through and we say, okay, these are the parts of it that maybe we want to do, or are we willing to spend that money on? That's fine. That's your decision, not ours. So that's something we need to definitely go through more in detail with the budget.
So help me understand because I'm a little confused. So it says on the calendar year totals that we overspent by $30,000. But then it says for the fiscal year that we brought in $9,000.
Yeah,
That means?
well, that was for 2024. So because of the timing of Tomato Days and the end of our budget and our financials, we end June 30th. And then our timing, it makes it really hard to kind of see how 24 did compared to 25 by looking at the financials. So that's when we came up with this calendar totals.
Okay,
So if you look at more so the calendar total in 2024, we actually lost 30,000. But for in fiscal year 25, well, those financials are gonna tell you a different story. But it's because of the timing, you know, some donations come in before June 30th, some go in, you know, after that. And so really to try and say, was this particular event successful and was it where we want it to be? We kind of said, okay, let's back it up and let's look at it on a calendar year for this event and see where we want to be, you know? We did receive a few more sponsors, but do we need to get more? Maybe that's an answer. Like Sherry said, maybe some grants. I know there's grants out there. Maybe some more donations from, you know, local businesses. I don't know. It's hard because everybody, you know, you go ask for money. That's a hard thing. I hats off to anybody that can do fundraising because I'm not good at it. But you can kind of, this gives you an idea. And I think if we can come up with that budget from Aaron saying, this is what this particular event, the third part of the event costs. And keep in mind that all those expenses may not be in yet. We still have a few more trickling in, you know, maybe credit cards or, you know, bills that are just coming in that we'll see next month. So this is not the final say on Tomato Days, I would say,
yeah, it's kind of,
but it's ouch.
it's kind of, hard to get rid of that, like now, you know, I mean, I mean, I think Tomato Day was great and everything, but that's a huge chunk of money, definitely.
Absolutely.
I think the idea of having things prioritized. You know, those things that people really plan on and then scale it back from there so that rather than spend money that we don't have, we may have to not have a certain act.
And that's the decisions that, you know, and I'm not saying that if you don't, you know, you as a council, there's value in this community event. Maybe you only do this community event. Maybe we don't do the Easter egg hunt, or we don't do, you know, a different community event. Or, but that's you guys' decision, and that's part of the budget process. That we definitely need to communicate and start getting those ideas and numbers in, saying, okay, and then we sit down, you know, as part of the budget, I sit down and I'm like, okay, well, this is what I think we need to operate. Just our office supplies, our, you know, maybe computers, our personnel and stuff. But then, like, these are the things that you guys would take those decisions on, and then you guide me, you know, and tell me what's important to you, because really it's your budget, not mine.
So where does this money come from?
It comes from the fund balance, or as far as going that -30. Well, we either have to see if we bring in additional money or we use fund balance. We will probably have to amend the budget. To, you know, account for that. I fully anticipate that will be a budget amendment, the Tomato Days. And then we'll have to definitely put our thumb down on it and say, okay, where are we doing? If we get a grant, then we do this, or maybe the person that does an event, if they still think that event is valuable, maybe they need to go get some money. I don't know what the answer is, but that's where you guys get to step in and have your thoughts and definitely voice your opinions on the so. I very much value the council's input when I'm putting together a budget. I mean, and same with staff. I mean, I'll meet with staff several times before I bring the budget, and then the budget is a preliminary budget for us to discuss, it's not solid until we're done, you know, so yeah, definitely that Tomato Days has got some concern as to where we're gonna go with it, and it is frustrating because this next year is our 100th year, so I know everybody's all stoked about it, but on the same token, what's the council's priorities, and that's your decision. So. All right, thank you. Yeah, you betcha. So, any other questions you have on expenses or anything that I can address?
Which page are you
I'm just on any of the pages, kind of in the back or wherever you want me to jump to. I was looking at general funds, so,
on? Okay, general.
yeah,
I
but
got a
it,
couple of questions.
okay, absolutely.
So general engineering,
What page are you on?
page 5.
Okay, yeah, or account number. Great, yeah,
So
okay.
is that the total amount that we spent on engineering in this quarter? Or this 4 months? Does it show up
So-
anywhere else? I couldn't see it, so I
Should
figured
have
out.
under-
just-
under use.
It's 10, 41, 50, 50.
That's year to date.
It's like that. Yeah, that's,
Year to date.
okay, yeah, that's
But-
year to date.
So it doesn't
is
show up anywhere else.
15,000. No, no, I'm wondering if when Morgan pays the bill, I mean, most of that would probably be for that, oh, you know what, none of it's allocated to sewer. Let me look and see if some of that needs to go to sewer.
So I'm just curious, because I know
Thank you.
our engineer left
Yeah,
and he was not replaced.
yeah,
So who and what is taking care of that? Is JUB? You know, how much is going to them now?
mhm.
Where does it show up on the budget? Because 15,000 year to date, that doesn't seem like very much.
Yeah.
It is DUV.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it could be that they've only billed us for maybe like 3 months worth of their stuff. You know, that could possibly be part of it. I'd have to look at all those invoices. I don't get a bill, so I don't look at each one as far as that, but I do look at them when I sign them. But I can look into that detail and definitely.
Okay, so to make sure I understand too, so year to date, that 15,000 is all we've spent in the last 4 months?
On engineering, yes.
One thing I can tell you, Bryce, with Malcolm and Jared, they're really reviewing a lot of the things. Taylor still comes and meets, and I know with this new subdivision ordinance, he will be part of, there's going to be this new group that will be, and it's going to be like a planning commission person. And Taylor and Jared and Malcolm, if ever we needed like our attorney. So I think they've been trying to do most of what they can between Malcolm and Jared, but then Taylor is here to consult. And he usually comes to a staff meeting, maybe every other week. So.
Okay.
I am within that. There also wasn't any allocated to the street, so I'm gonna relook at all the invoices and see if they need reconsidered on the. Because, you know, I'm sure some of their fees have been related to those as well, so thank you.
I'm just going down and just looking at like ones that are way out of whack, like the next one down, computer replacement, 248%
Yeah,
of the budget.
so that
So
one,
Is that something we got bids on, or, you know, because we budgeted 2,500, it's over the amount.
so let me kind of explain a couple of things first off, when the state looks at the budgets, they look at these bottom lines, so overall. So you are allowed to basically rob Peter to pay Paul, basically, in the scenario. So I think what the thought was here is we needed some computer replacement. Yeah, 25 was budgeted, but the computers were pretty bad. Well, staff had said we would rather not spend the money on small equipment. We'll instead have the newer computers. And state kind of allows, that's where you're allowed to do that as a department head. And I encourage cities to more so with your departments, and I mean, it's up to you, but you, like, if I have a public works guy and he needs something's broke, I'm not gonna say, I'm gonna micromanage you to say, you can't buy it because there's not enough in this line. I'm gonna trust that he's gonna make the best judgment, because I don't know his department, I don't know Public Works, I don't know what they need, he knows. So if he feels like this item is more important than this item, he can do that as long as he stays within the total budget. And that's what the state kind of looks at, is they say, the budget is there for a guideline, and a budget should change throughout the year. But the budget is there for a guideline, and as long as you stay within kind of your department, you can shift money. And so, you know, I mean, if you want, we can reclassify some of that expense down to the, you know, small equipment. What defines small equipment, maybe some of that computers is,
I'm not,
you know,
I'm not concerned about that, I'm just
But, yeah.
concerned about the process.
Oh, okay.
Because I know we have, I know
Yeah.
the state has different guidelines, but we have ordinances as well. If it's over a certain
Absolutely.
amount, we're required to get 3 bids.
Mhm.
So, and I know there's. Yeah, there's some things that we should do as our ordinances that have stated, so anyway, that's what I was curious.
absolutely, yeah.
So 248% was way out of whack, so.
But like I said, maybe staff decided, but that, like you're saying, there's your ordinances. And
So
I
they-
know,
So should there have been 3 bids?
on that particular thing, it depends how your ordinance is written. I haven't read the ordinance. Some of them say if it's per item, then it's not a problem, but some of them say that if it's overall project, and if it's overall project, possibly, I don't know, I haven't read the ordinance, so I'm not gonna specify that. You know, on that particular thing, but yeah, I mean.
We explained it well, so.
Okay, sorry, if I get too much into the
No.
weeds, tell me and say, well, come back.
I don't speak in count.
That's okay.
So the other one, just added, maybe someone else, but the other one is supplies. It looked like on all the categories, supplies, maintenance, tools, they were all. Some of them were, yeah, way over 100%, and a lot of them were very high as well. I'm just kind of curious why, maybe it's what you just explained, or there's something that you have in supplies that maybe really isn't.
Would, and I'm happy to do this, but would it help if you guys? I mean, there's a couple of ways that we can approach it, that I can give you either the details, the general ledger, which I'll warn you, it's like IRS code. Or we could give you even a listing of all the checks that are written every month, if you guys would like to. We could provide that as part of the email when we send the financials. I'm happy to do that. If you would like that,
That'd be a big.
And
deal.
you'd like that?
No, that'd be a big deal.
Oh.
I'm not sure I would, like,
Okay.
if there was just
Yeah.
some line items that we had questioned about, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't want to.
Yeah, and maybe when you have questions, you could email me back and say, hey, can I find out the information? I'm happy to pull up that detail and say, okay, here's the information
Okay.
on that line.
Perfect.
I'm thrilled to do that, absolutely thrilled. Yeah, definitely.
We're on page 6 now. I have a question on that.
Page 6, okay.
Okay, so on the emergency management fund.
Mhm.
So I looked at the utility fund and it's kind of right on schedule what we thought. You know, for 3 months or 4 months, it was 165. So if you take that out to a full year, it's 495,000. And as a city council, we voted to put 5% of that away in emergency fund. So
Okay, so you're
That's-
talking within the general fund or within like? the
public
sewer?
safety.
Oh, okay, just public safety,
Yeah, it's on
okay,
page 6. So
okay,
basically, that's a fund for emergencies.
Okay.
Number one, just to prove the FEMA, if we ever have an issue, that, hey, we're trying our best. You know, we don't have a lot of money, but we're trying to do something.
so it
So-
is an ordinance that,
Well, we all voted on it. It's not an ordinance. but-
So I actually went back to look, because you brought that up last
Yeah.
time. So on February 1st, Bryce, in a discussion, you said we would like to see a percentage of the utility tax be put towards the emergency preparedness fund. Then I went through every minute after that, and I could not find anywhere that it had ever been motioned. And so I don't believe, because I haven't seen it, when Teresa did the budget, that she put that in there. I did see this 9,000 in emergency preparedness fund.
That was it, because before she left, That's actually the fund.
Is that 9,000?
That's it.
That's
Okay.
9,000 too.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
So-
Cause I thought that was like for you to put on.
February
the
1st, yeah, if you want to go back,
Yeah, so that,
actually,
No, this is.
do we need to make a motion?
So,
yeah, we couldn't tonight, but we could do that in another meeting, because I actually printed it off. The February 1st, and that's what it said. Member Wilcox would like to see a percentage of utility tax be put towards the emergency
So was
preparedness
that our
fund.
staff meeting or our actual
It
meeting?
was our actual meeting. These are the minutes from our February 1st meeting. And so I couldn't find where we'd ever voted on that. And so Teresa maybe wasn't aware and didn't put it in it.
but.
And so, and I actually called and talked to this Lisa Gosling, and she said she knows you really well.
Mhm.
She really said really nice things about you. And she said that FEMA will pay up to 75% of a city loss as long as everything is documented correctly. And we're responsible for 25%, but that's only city. I'm not telling you anything new because you already know this, but in-kind and volunteer hours will count. This is what she said, though. What we need to do is make sure we have an ordinance or a code that we can release funds in a timely manner. That's the words I wrote down what she said. She said, do we have like a credit card that has enough limit? The biggest problem cities run into is while we're waiting for FEMA to reimburse us that 75%, do we have a code or ordinance to release funds in a timely manner? And she said, and the next thing she recommends is we need to make sure we have enough insurance. You know, this isn't going to cover people's private property. The government will give them like low interest loans, but this is like our city. And she said, one really good thing about Hooper is we don't have a lot of city properties that would actually probably even, you know, count as that. Yeah, qualify, I think I can think of the word. So I think that's one thing. So if we want to do that, then we certainly can have that on the agenda and make a motion to do the 5%. And I asked her, I said, do other cities? And she said, no. She said, even the county doesn't have money set aside because she said, we wish we all had enough money that we could, but we don't. So she said, more importantly, is just make sure that our insurance, we have enough insurance and we have that ordinance that we can quickly release funds, which I don't know exactly how we do that, Cameron. You don't know.
Didn't they say the city was required, the only one for FEMA to kick in, we had the.
Yeah, you have to pony up.
Yeah,
It's
you have to,
25%.
yeah, so I've been through a
So-
FEMA. I've been through one with Kaysville when I worked there. And it was a big one because we had our own power department. And so we're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars because of what it was. It was a windstorm. So when we went through that, yes, we had to pay the expenses because it's several, months before you get the FEMA funds. And then some of the funds are held until a later time and then released even like, I think it's like a year later. It's like a fair amount later. So you do have to have the cash flow, I think is more so what an appropriate thing is to say more so the cash flow. So I think that is more what we look at. But on the same token, it's not, I don't think it's a bad idea to, consider restricting some if you as a council, feel that's appropriate. I would maybe say, like you're saying, 5% a year up until this X amount, so that you don't get an excessive balance in there. Because that is going to be restricted money for that unless a future council unrestricted it.
Yeah, I think when we discussed it, it's a fairly liberal fund. It's not just for FEMA, but say like, this stormwater
Oh,
thing goes
yeah,
down. We can actually use that if there's not funding.
like the loan.
And I know there's other things that the county's pushing us, the city to have as far as supplies,
And that's what I
So
thought that
the- yeah.
budget item was more supplies or a fair or something like that, so that's
Yeah,
fine.
So there's some things that we need to be proactive on. It's gonna require a little bit of money, but that was new money, the tax.
Yeah,
So it's like, why not save it? Why not get in the habit of saving that?
not a bad idea.
Until such a point that the council decides not to. But anyway, that was my concern. So I guess if we need to put it on the next council's agenda and then vote on it, motion, we can do that, so.
And as soon as it's done, I can go ahead and start, saving that 5% away, yeah, that's not a lot.
And I like how you said with emergency management, so it could be used for other things.
Sure.
Yeah. I like
So like
that.
you say, if we have the road that collapses down by the cemetery and that's an emergency to get it fixed, we could maybe
Yeah.
use that money, yeah.
Because
I like
FEMA, you
that.
have to hit $1 million, I think it's $1 million is the threshold.
Yeah.
But if it's a county within the county,
Then the
Then-
county looks at it together.
so we'd be included with their.
The other cool thing with FEMA, and Sherry kind of touched on it, is if you do keep track of your community hours and your community
Right.
equipment. So in case, so we didn't know that, so I went back and I had to go to all the states, so that was the best way I could think of. And have the state president send out a paper of everybody put down your name and the amount of hours and what equipment you use. Best we can, and we ended up getting full reimbursement
Mhm.
for that because of all the community hours. So it was
Yeah,
really
yeah. Dave
beneficial.
Harris is working on that, so he's,
Beautiful.
he's hitting that pretty
It's
hard.
pretty awesome.
And we might wanna look at our insurance coverages too, and just make sure. I don't know how often we do that, but that's something we might wanna look at and make sure our buildings, we think are covered for what. They should be, so.
The
that would be
league
something.
should, with the league, they're pretty good about looking at that on a yearly basis, but definitely when you sit down and review your policy.
Mhm.
You should question them and say, did you increase this? Because that's worth more now, you realize to replace it, you know, we want replacement value, not historical value. You know, so yeah, definitely push your insurance a little bit more and ask questions. So. Okay.
We're going to do write that down to be on the agenda next time, okay, good, thank you.
And I would maybe, as part of that, specify what things it can be used for, or how it can be used, maybe if it's an emergency, maybe, you know, just. It has to be approved by the council, even by email or something, you know, I don't know what, I'm not the attorney. So whatever is legally allowed, but something that, you know, stipulates that, so it's not just someone's judgment call. You know,
It's a good idea.
more specified, but I think that's a great idea, yeah, so. Any other questions on the general fund? Or anything, or if you have questions on what's in a certain category, you can email me and I'll give you that detail, absolutely, love to. So,
I have a question on stormwater.
okay,
On page 7. Here, when I was highways, for storm drain maintenance and cleaning. Now, usually that is $4,500. But I got these stormwater funds, seems like every year we spend very little money in our stormwater fund.
so,
Bud's been $170,000, I'm just trying to. I don't know, I'm trying to. Think what we're gonna spend this money on.
yeah,
Tell me where that is again, Ryan. It's on page 7, or what?
Page 7, 1044-5700. Storm drain maintenance cleaning. So my thought is to
we have it in-
take that out of highways and put it in. Stormwater fund, I'm trying
Well,
to
yeah.
spend some of this money that we would.
Yeah, that
rent
definitely-
For whatever reason. You know,
I'll ask Jared what that is, because it should be coming out of storm water, if it's storm water.
right.
Now, he has expressed to me, and I don't, again, I'm not public works, so I don't know. But he expresses to me that stormwater is very different than storm drain. Now, I should know this, my husband's a SWIP guy, but I don't, so that is a very good question, we can definitely ask him and find out the answer, because I don't know.
What are we gonna spend $170,000 on for stormwater? What do we spend that money on?
Well, I know there is something coming up, I heard that's a contract that,
They'll talk about that tonight.
So where's that, where you
There's
find that
something here.
170,000?
That's clear on page 18.
so
Oh.
18 shows its own storm drain or storm water. Sorry.
And
Jared's gonna do me.
I know what one we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can use that money for that.
I would think so, but
I
I
think
think
it qualifies, I very much
Okay,
think
good.
so. The other thing is I did it just before I came, I ran a little analysis, because I was thinking about, you know, okay, where we've divided these out into different funds. You know, everything's been housed in that sewer fund, but have the other funds been supporting it? And I think we all know the answer is yes. The other funds have been supporting the sewer fund. So I kind of went back 5 years. And I looked at the stormwater fund, and overall, in the last 5 years, I determined, and Ryan went through this with me, I had a second set of eyes. But we determined there was about $733,000 worth of money that needs to be taken from the sewer into the storm drain, into the stormwater. Get that out of my head. Anyways, so the stormwater fund is a little bit healthier than what we, anticipate, but this sewer fund in return is not as healthy as we thought it was, So that is one thing. Garbage, though, we looked at, and it's pretty much where it needs to be, so we counted about 140,000, which is about where it needs to be, that's good.
That's what we've known all along.
Yeah,
We've
exactly.
known that's the case.
But this
All three
tells us
funds
that.
can support each other though, because they're all utility funds, correct?
Well, they can, but you don't want to.
Right.
It's not good
If
management.
necessary, they can.
If necessary, they can borrow loans from each other. They can't pay for each other, but they can loan each other money. So you've basically been loaning money from your stormwater department to fund more of your
So
sewer fund. So, yeah, your sewer fund's basically been taking a loan from stormwater. So, the idea is each enterprise item should pay for itself with the fees that are being charged.
which brings up my next question, the ARPA money that we need to decide how to spend within the next 30 days. Can that just be allocated to the sewer fund? Want to just say that?
So that's the thing is I did find out even with the general fund, and you just need to basically say in a public meeting. That, and we can even do it when I talk about the financials, which I'll make it really brief because we've hashed over it here. But anyways, you could simply say the unspent ARPA money in the 165 in the general fund, you could say that you wanted to use that for police. And just give me that direction, we're done. So, and we spent that, and that's what I would recommend, that definitely qualifies, hands down, no question. Then we just don't have that restricted. Doesn't mean we have any extra money coming in, it just is a simple thing you have to tell me, I can't just do it, you know what I mean?
One time money, so,
Mhm. Yeah,
but we don't want to lose it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
no.
We have to allocate it
Mhm.
by the end of the year.
Yeah, and then,
So you said police, why would you say police?
well, that's because that's in the general fund. Police services, a lot of cities, a lot of places use that because police services went out during COVID, it definitely qualifies so much.
We can still pull it and use it for 5900 West project.
The cash is still there.
It's still there.
Yeah, the cash is still there. And then on you were more so, I think, talking about the sewer fund, which we have the ARPA of 52,000. I believe there was some pumps that were being purchased.
Yeah, and I don't know that for sure from Darren, but I will check on that because they
Yeah.
talked about some supplies that are already ordered. But I don't know if they've already ordered those or not.
But those definitely qualify within the budget that, we have that ARPA budget item and they needed those pumps. And so those definitely qualify for that ARPA money and would be a wise way to, send that money.
I know they've been getting some replacement pieces and the outfit said it would be nice to have some extra pumps if we had any money, which is something we probably, but it doesn't really sound like in our sewer fund we do. And as far as stormwater, Jared, it was like clear back when we were talking about budget, but in that list of those 13 projects. So we are not at a loss of projects to spend that money from, and we don't even have really an impact fee for stormwater, and we should, and we don't have an impact fee for roads, which we should. So that's something we need to possibly look at when we're redoing our impact fees to actually include that. And I know JUB is working on those analysis of what we can do with that.
So definitely, relooking at your impact fees on a regular basis is, in my opinion, a very valuable resource to look at to, definitely make those developers pay for the impact that they're having on the community instead of the current citizens. So that's what impact fees are for.
What was the bill on the 59?
It's like 817,000. Peter will be here tonight. It was in your conflict.
Yeah.
So he's going to come and do that presentation, but he's also going to explain to you that he's applied for a grant where we could possibly get 600,000 of that, which we hope, but again, that is not guaranteed.
Where's that grant? That grant was,
It was an agricultural, we announced it over in
So we could use that money for that as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna just,
And stormwater.
yeah,
So jumping on that, we agreed to pay for materials.
we're only paying.
So
for
they
material.
have all this mobilization, traffic drills with all that stuff.
This
That's
is material, these same things that you're
actually,
working.
that's probably not either. That's landscape restoration, that's.
I can buy some cheaper mailboxes.
Anyway, I guess he did.
Yeah, Taylor's coming tonight to make this presentation, and so asking him all his questions, because him and Jared have been working on this now for some time.
So my question, just to kind of get through some of this, so it looks like all the shop and maintenance guys' budgets are maxed out or close to, is Jared aware of that?
He has been provided a copy of the financials.
So is something being put there that he doesn't know about?
He's the one coding it, so it's really, him.
Okay.
But then the question comes to me, to my mind, is, was the budget done effectively? Because if he's this far into the year, and I mean, I have full confidence in Jared that he's not going out and buying.
Sure, yeah,
Something
because it's never
crazy.
happened before.
Yeah,
so.
so I'm sitting there saying, what causes, Jared? Do we need to increase your budget? Is there a need to increase this so you can effectively do your job? Because, I don't want them to not effectively do their job
Sure.
either. So it's a juggling act. It definitely is. And so that's more so the question I asked Jared is, Jared, what's going on? Do we need to increase your budget? Do we need to relook at this? Because, what's going on? Let's communicate and,
Maybe
find out.
maybe if they'd ask him, say, hey, are you aware of this?
And it could be that he's used to that account number as opposed to another, and so maybe he uses that one as opposed to each little line item, because like I said, departments within the total is what we kind of look at, but yeah, definitely something we can
Yeah,
discuss.
the arena maintenance, I don't know, you could probably know what happened there, that's 164%.
Yeah, I think, part of the arena maintenance was, I don't know, yeah, it's what I think it is. There is a 30. I want to say it was 3,400 or something like that, that we had to replace the chutes for the cattle. It was completely ruined, and so before we could have summer tomato days, we had a emergency. So, yeah. But that was more maintenance, how do you say that's because of tomato days, or is it because people use the facility? So that was kind of one of those things.
Do we know how many employees, city employees, pull from salary and wages and just highways and give seven?
So the employees actually they're allocated, so not just an employee doesn't necessarily 100% pull from there. So it's based on what they do. I have asked Jared to reallocate those and to reconsider how many hours or what percentage of time each employee is spending in those departments, so that we can reconsider where we're at with those and see exactly, but I could definitely research that and tell you how much percentage wise. I'm happy to do that if you'd like me to. Yeah.
Okay, I just have one thing we have to talk about really quick before we move out of work meeting. So keep questions, because she'll be up here to talk about this as well. So, yesterday we received the management agreement for the house. And there were a couple of things on here that we just needed to discuss that were a little bit different than we had talked about. So one thing was, that we had talked about, and I went back and listened to our minutes, and it was on our May 2nd meeting. And we had talked about not having any animals in the house, any pets. And that was one thing that we had talked about. We'd also talked about doing a 6-month lease and then a month-to-month. But when we received this, there is a pet addendum, and we do have 2 large dogs living in the house. And so I just didn't know if that's something, I called and talked to our insurance company about that. And so there's a couple of things we need to, and not, we can't make any decisions. This is just a work meeting, but you know, this might be something that we need to consider. And they have not listed Hooper either on their insurance policy, so they're required to do an insurance policy. And he said that we need to make sure that we must be added as the additional insured, and instead of us being added, they've added themselves. And he said it shouldn't be this resolution property management, it needs to be Hooper City. Because he said even if there's a fire or something, their policy should pay first before our policy does. So, and Brandon's going to be on Zoom here about 7, but we said we need to decide what we want to do with this. If we're okay, if everybody is okay with having the animals in the house, if it's something that we're not, then, and I didn't know if that was something that he said, it's one thing, you know, if they knew that they weren't supposed to, like if we conveyed this properly to them, that they couldn't, and about the length of the contract, and then they went ahead and did it anyway, then that's one thing. But if maybe we didn't properly convey that to them. But I went back and listened to the minutes, and it specifically when we did, we said, you know, we did talk about no animals, and we did talk about the 6 months within the contract. So do any of you have an opinion on this as far as animals?
Yeah, I think what the contract says.
Yeah. I can turn it around.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. say
That's the
animals.
problem.
Well, I think
I thought it did.
We talked about it, but then when, you know, like I said, when we got this contract, and I tried to do all the pages and highlight them, because then when I went through, it says pets, animals, including service and assistant, and it said that they are allowed if it's authorized in writing. And so they did an addendum to the contract. And so they've listed their 2 animals down here, and they have to pay an additional, but I don't know if we get that additional, but we know that there's sometimes animals are hard on houses. One of them's a 99-pound one, the other one's a 55-pound one, and so, and another thing that was a little bit of a concern is this is next to a park. Our yard isn't fenced in. And, you know, we have the horse trailers that are parking there, and the breed of animal is one that sometimes can be aggressive, not necessarily, it's just from dog to dog. So that's something if we are going to then want to put a fence around.
It's just easier to say around. We're just setting ourselves up for liability.
Well, that was the concerns from the insurance when I called them and I said, what should we do with this? And so he said, you know, if we told them that they couldn't, but I think part of the problem is, you know, like I say, Morgan had asked multiple times and just received a copy of this yesterday. And so when I was going through it, so do you want me just to check with, you know, Reed and Brandon and see what our options are now? Is everyone
well, where it's already done, I don't know if we can.
Yeah, I think it was pretty clear to begin with that there were animals. To Scott Larson, I think it was clear going into this. That
Yeah.
there was not the animals. in the house.
I thought that too.
But if they've done that, I don't know legally.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was, and those are the things that I had highlighted, you know, the one thing for no matter what, they've got to change and put us on their insurance policy, not the company. And so that was one of the things, and then the other thing was the animals. And then, again, they had assigned this addendum that was towards the back, and it said, it lists their dogs. Okay, well, I'll check with Brandon and I'm just telling, going back to the minutes that we had said that, and do you want, how do we feel about in the 6 month, in a month contract, or do you want to? So they signed a year contract, and again, I went back to listen, and we had a motion to have it be a 6 month, then with a month,
I personally don't have problems in this under your lease. If you want to, I don't think we have to. I don't know, lots of people like to sign the lease, just, just like we're gonna be, but I guess we can have that be an option.
Yeah, well, I can bring that up to him, too, and just ask and have Brandon, according to what, the motion was made. This is what city council motioned, and it was just different, and see what he wants to do with it, so, okay. Thank you.
We didn't want business card, so you. Easier. You probably have me. I use, I was gonna say, I know I've talked to you guys. You know where I'm at. Easier than you better stop.
Fine, yeah, well.
If not, you know how to get me, huh? And Morgan knows how to guide you to me.
No, one Green's Landing is our phase two. Currently in your review.
Yes, I think it was final approved.
Yeah. I think this phase one. is Complete.
Yeah, it's still recording, so you're good.
Okay, we'd like to welcome, we'd like to welcome everyone to our city council meeting tonight, November 21st. We are going to go ahead and have a pledge of allegiance by Councilmember Maragoni and then a reverence by Councilmember Hill.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dirk, I know we're probably grateful to gather together tonight as a city council and as a community. We're grateful for the opportunity that it affords us to gather in such a place and such a time. We're grateful for the freedoms we enjoy, for the nation we live in, and for the Constitution of the United States that protects us. We're thankful for the many blessings and opportunities that are ours each day. We ask the Father for protection against things that may harm us as a community, from the elements, from the crimes that are throughout the nation. Please protect us from those things. Please protect the police department and the fire department as they do their jobs each day to protect our community, that they will be watched over and kept safe from harm. We pray for a civil meeting this evening, that we may discuss things that are beneficial to our community and that we may make decisions there as such. We are grateful again for all we have and pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. So, events, I just wanted to make you aware, this is an upcoming event, but just a shout out to Roy High School's football team who played in the state playoffs today. They ended up not winning, but they had a wonderful season. We have a lot of residents and students from Hooper that attend Roy High School. So we really appreciate those efforts. Another announcement. So we were given this flyer in the county, and it is called the Healthy Homes Program. And they have grants that are available to help people to improve it I'll just give you a couple of the things they said. Get the lead out, eliminate moisture and mold, manage pets safely, clean up indoor air, plant home safety. And so you can apply for a grant. If you happen to have a rental unit, it isn't your income, but it would be the income of the people that are renting. So if anyone is interested in this, if you go to the Livermore Health Department and go under the Healthy Homes program, they said as of today, I think they only had 2 or 3 people apply and they can offer up to 100 grants. So if you know of anybody who want any more information, I'll post this out and come up and ask me and we can give you more information on that. Oh, and I forgot to mention that we do have Brandon Richards on Zoom tonight, so he is representing us. Okay, another announcement is we are still in need of a crossing guard to be on 51 Heather West and 35, 25, 35, 75. I always get confused which it is. It's where it comes out of the road from there with the Quail Meadows and Quail Estates, those subdivisions. So we currently are taking turns, West Haven employees and Hoover City employees. So if any of you know someone, and please pass on that information because that is something that we need to get done. Another thing too, at the end of December, starting 1st of January, we will have 3 positions open for our planning commission. So if you go to our website, the beginning of December, even possibly next week, you can see to apply. So even if you possibly applied in the past, we still want you to probably reapply because we will be doing interviews for that. And then the last thing is on December 9th, Santa Claus is going to come to Hooper. And so that is a Monday, and he will be here in our building from 6 o'clock until 7:30. He will be here along with Mrs. Claus. There'll be a few others, possibly a reindeer and an elf, and we'll be here to visit with the children. There's going to be some live animals outside, and you'll be seeing posters. We're going to be sending notices home to all of the elementary children, but just wanted to make you aware of that. That is on December 9th. Okay, so let's start with our consent items. The first thing is the approval of the minutes dated November the 6th, 2024. Council, I'm sure you've had a chance to go through those. Was there any questions, concerns on the minutes?
On the motion that the grants that we're gonna apply for, so.
I think that might be the 7th. Is that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Yeah, we have 2 different ones. That's okay. So first we'll do the 6th and then yes, hold that thought. So on the 6th, was there any questions, any changes?
Probably not taking the minutes from November 6th, 2024.
The motion was made by Councilmember Hill. Is there a second? Second was made by Councilmember Maragoni. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Okay, now to yours.
Okay,
Bryce on the 7th.
so on the grants, I know that rep reached out to me, like if there's any expenses incurred in like doing any of these grants, that's gonna be taken care of. I don't foresee anything major, but is that?
Expenses as of hiring someone, do you think, or what?
Like on the landscapes, they could get something throughout design,
Oh,
that type of thing. I don't anticipate a lot. So if we know from that, will those expenses be covered in this motion? Or need to?
so I mentioned this to Steve and to Jared, and they didn't, I think from when the park was originally drawn up, there's already a draft that is drawn like a picture, and they felt like they could just go ahead and get me those prices.
Will it still be irrigation? Like
Oh,
underground
for sure, yes, that will be,
So
yes,
somebody just probably take a couple hours.
yeah, I don't think, that's right. So I don't really foresee any expenses with that. But I don't really see any, I think that he brought up the map and showed, I think he maybe even at one of our staff meetings, we actually have that where they actually show the trees and all of that, so I think that's already pretty much been drawn up. Good, so. Okay, there was only one thing that I had saw in these minutes that we wanted to make sure, because when we talked about the furniture in the rental home, and I had mentioned the refrigerator, washer, dryer. I did mention microwave, and we wanted to make sure that the microwave was left in the house as well. So that was just one thing that I had noticed, that we would want to make sure we get that included in, was the microwave. It's on page. Anybody else have any? Okay, and we have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll motion for the approval of minutes dated November 7th, 2024.
The motion was made by Councilmember Wilcox. Is there a second?
One second.
Second made by Councilmember Hill. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Okay, so the next thing that we have on our agenda is a discussion, and we're really happy to have County Moss here, who is our city treasurer, to go through this presentation.
To escape those.
Keep it short,
To
because we
check on
kind of
this.
went through a lot of it in the
Escape.
work session, so. I'll just quickly go over, but you all have had a chance to look at them, and also we discussed them in detail, and then of course, you know, if you have any questions, feel free to call me. I'm always available to, you know, discuss the accounting numbers. I'm in for it in a crazy way. So anyways, overall, the city right now, we're sitting at about 28% of our revenue in budget. And then also with the expenditure, we're about 23%. We discussed kind of some of the things that contribute to that, mainly timing with the revenue, with the property taxes, those come in a big lump sum. And so, of course, we've not received those yet, but 33% of the year has passed, so only 28% has been received, but it's not alarming because we don't have that property tax revenue yet. So otherwise, we discussed any areas that we have a concern in that. Expenditures are pretty much on track. Just a couple, recreation is a little bit over to date, but we talked about that's relating to tomato days and the timing of that. And then the parks is at 33.4%, which is right within realm, but on the same token, you know, we've had some seasonal expenses with that. Everything else pretty much appears within reason. We did have with the general fund, we have the $165,000 of ARPA money that is still needing to be designated, and all I need to do is just get direction from the council that you want that against the police charges that we talked about in the meeting. So if you know, you just direct me that way, that's the way I will go. So does anybody have a problem if I go ahead and do that?
So we need to do it. Oh, to.
Well, if you don't want me to do it, just tell me, how's that?
We probably should make it, you know, official, so we're doing it correctly. So when we talked about sewer, 5900 West project, or police.
Or the pumps, we talked about
Oh,
possibly.
I guess that'd be sewer, right?
Yeah. But
So what if we just allocated it to the sewer fund,
both funds, both amounts.
both amounts?
If we do that, we will have to do an amendment in the budget. And then also where we're transferring from a general fund into an enterprise fund. I don't know if ARPA is exempt from this, but typically we would have to public notice if we move from general to enterprise.
So what if we allocate it to the 5900 West project?
Then we're just simply allocating it to 51, that project, because it is in another general or another government fund, because it is a capital projects fund, it's governmental, that's still fine. So, yeah, around that way, yes, that's okay. So,
I'll be okay.
Yeah.
you want to do that fund, that project then?
Yeah, that's our direction.
Okay, I will put it to that, and then with the sewer funds, what, do you want to hold on that for a little bit longer, or do you want to direct me on that one?
Is that the money that's already listed in ARPA for the
Mhm.
sewer?
Yeah, the 52,000. Do we wanna hold on that for another month and direct payment?
That's already allocated, all right?
Already allocated.
Well, it's allocated to sewer, but we have to determine what we're spending it on.
That's probably a discussion with Jared.
Yeah, sewer parks. I know it's going to be sewer
Yeah.
parks.
We had talked that there was some pumps that were being purchased. We just need to make sure we do that in the timely fashion, so.
Okay,
And, you know, it's pretty, the ARPA money is pretty broad. You just have to simply direct me where to put it,
okay,
so.
we can find that out from Darren and see where that one. Okay,
Okay, so we'll hold on that one, the other one I'll go ahead and allocate, so, okay. That was a little bit a roundabout way, but anyways, the other sections of the financials, we did break out the utility funds into sewer, garbage, and stormwater, so that we can account for each one of those. And make sure that they're staying more on budget and that the fees are covering that particular service that we're providing to the citizens. So I think that was definitely an effective thing to do. And we can see that garbage is pretty much where it needs to be. Stormwater is exactly as we suspected. It was collecting, you know, enough money, but we do have some projects that are coming up that we need to spend those funds on. But then sewer, as of right now, it's okay, but it could definitely, it's tight. Let's put it that way. So, but we'll continue to monitor that and make sure that we're within reason on that, so. Is there any other questions or? any other?
I think we discussed this in one meeting, but could you provide us with, JUB invoices and then also, is it possible to do a 5500 West project presentation or an update, where we're at on that?
I-
We're over budget.
So I can provide you like an account detail. As far as knowing whether it's over budget or not, I would probably say JUB would be the better resource on that. Because I am not a construction worker. So,
presentation at our next meeting on that. Taylor, would you be willing at our next meeting?
Yeah, I have all that information so I can put it together and present it.
yeah. I would
But you
definitely-
can do the invoices.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll work with Morgan on gathering when we get them and then reconsidering if some of those do need to be reallocated to other funds as well. As far as the coding, I can look into that more, so. Okay, well, as always, you're welcome to call me or email me, so, okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. Okay, so the next thing on our agenda is we're going to have a public hearing on the speed limit change to 5500 west from 40 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour. This was something that was discussed in our last meeting. So just to recap, at that time, we had talked about possibly having all of the speed limits on our collector roads in Hooper being a consistent 30 miles an hour. So we have, if you go south on 5500 west from 5500 south to the Davis County line, the Hooper portion is 30 miles an hour. The Davis County portion, if you continue, is 30. From 5500 south to 4000 south. So almost a mile and a half, mile and 3/4 block, it's 40. Then you go from 4000 south north, it changes back to 30. And so we have a public hearing. I had sent out a mayor's report that was in the packet as well as online. And these are just some of the things that we talked about doing it. And last meeting, we changed it from 4700 west to 30 miles an hour, 5100 west to 30 miles an hour. For the last couple of years, as they were working on the road, it was actually 30 miles an hour from about 4600. There was another sign that was south of that changed it to 40. We tried to kind of keep some consistency. And a couple of other things I mentioned is Hooper North Park is located on 5500 west. On days such as soccer Saturday or lacrosse or football, if people travel up and down this road, sometimes there's cars parked on both sides, which limits the side of view. And there's 4 bus stops that are located along 5500 west in that space. From 5500, if you go further along, there are open drain ditches along 55, and if you go down further, from 4600 south down to the Sinclair, is those students are required to walk. And then we have a lot of children and students that walk to the pickleball and the basketball courts that are also located on Longish Road. So I don't know, do you want to have any discussion on this first, open it up to public hearing? First, what would you like to do as council?
Public comment, yeah.
Okay, so I just need someone to make a motion to open the meeting to a public hearing.
So moved.
Okay, that motion was made by Councilmember Hill. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Second was made by Councilmember Wilcox. So now we move into a public hearing. You are welcome to come up to the microphone and state your name, and you have 3 minutes to give a public comment on this issue.
Before you go, I left 1491 South, if you heard that. Thank you for dropping the speed limit on there. Should have been, in my mind, it should have been done 15 years ago. But it's made quite the difference. I first noticed it when I seen the speed limit one night I was driving home. Seeing that, I had to drive it all until the whole road was changed, which it was. And anyway, it's a lot quieter. I mean, speeders are still in the speed, I've even seen some warnings or even tickets issued since then, which is good. But it's just made it a lot quieter and nicer to live there. So I want to thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good.
Pull the microphone out. I kind of tipped him. Yes, I can do that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Cindy Bennett, I wrote it down because I've been thinking about my thoughts for one. Anyway, I've lived on 5500 West almost my entire life, except for about 6 years when I lived across from the irrigation company. Otherwise, I've just lived across the street. Now I just live off of 5500 and drive every day to get to my house. People drive too fast. My kids have a bus stop on the corner of 4350 and 5500. Hardly anyone slows down when they drive fast. I've watched cars pass the bus because they are in too big of a hurry. I walk my dog and my baby down 5500 almost every day. Almost no one slows down to go past us, or they also don't know that they have a steering wheel that turns. There are ditches on both sides of the road, so there is nowhere to walk but on the road. I have been afraid for my dog numerous times. I don't know where to go with my stroller because the only place I have is the road. I stand at the corner of 4350 and talk to my friend and we watch the car speed by. In the last year, I have had 3 different people pull out in front of me at 4600 South. I've been watching because if I hadn't been watching them and slamming on my brakes, I would have gotten into a wreck. Plus, when there's stuff going on at the park, it's hard to even see, so it would be safer to lower the speed limit there. 40 is too fast for a small town residential area. It's 30 north of 4000 and north of 4000 south and south of 5500 south. It is all of the same road. It just makes sense to change the entire road to 30, so it's all the same. People are going to speed no matter what, but at least if it's lowered, it's safer for those of us who have to deal with the fast cars going by. Usually it seems like people go 10 miles over the speed limit. So if it's 30, then maybe people will actually only go 40 or less for those of us that actually follow the speed limit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff Bennett. Basically for all the reasons that Mayor Bingham said, it makes sense in my mind that the speed limit would be lowered. Like Cindy said, we had kids at a bus stop, multiple kids at a bus stop that people really don't pay attention, so we wanna lower the risk, that just makes sense to me to lower the risk. Drop the speed down, people are going still faster. And maybe if they get hit a couple times, like Courtney said, maybe if they get picked up for a ticket, then it'll jog their memory to go a little bit slower. First and foremost for me, it has to do with my kids' safety, just being on that road more often than I would probably like anyways, I think it should be lower.
Good evening, Travis Bates. I'm a resident of Hooper. I'm finding as I get older, I'm just not in that big of a hurry, so the speed limit's pretty arbitrary to me, but I got an earful from my wife, and I'm glad she's not here tonight. My only ask is if we're going to change the speed limits on these roads that we warn residents. Those signs, those 30-mile-an-hour signs went up really fast after the last meeting. I don't know if we can move, I know on 5100, there's one of the flashing yellow signs, we can move that to the front of the road from either side. Law enforcement was there very quickly. Councilperson Mayor Maradona checked into it for me that they were only issuing warnings, thank goodness. Because that's kind of dirty pool to show up the second day and start issuing citations, but I think we could get borrow a sign from UDOT, maybe advertise that to help people slow down. Because I think people that have lived here a long time aren't going to pay attention to those signs that change and to slow that traffic to get that out. So the second piece would be the section on 4700 to the north side. We know in West Haven is going to be changing that from 35, because that was kind of the whole reason that really got this rolling. Third question is why we're having a public hearing about one road when the other two were just pushed through. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I can answer one question. The flashing sign is actually West Haven's. So their West Haven only goes to 4825 south. And so we really couldn't move it. Anyway, that's their sign.
Do you think they noticed if it was missing?
I'm not sure. I did check into those signs and they are $500 a piece, which is something that we might want to consider in another year's budget.
Maybe even the speed trailer.
Yeah. Yeah, the speed trailer's been brought in for the winter. We don't have that out during the winter because they start plowing the roads. And so it's already been brought in. So it's already in the yards for the winter. So, and I appreciate the warnings. I think that was good. And that's an idea. And maybe we could end up, if this ends up going through, or even for the other roads, getting something that might announce that better. So thank you.
To answer your other question, you know, why do we have a public hearing? We were told our last meeting that West Haven had already voted and we're changing their speed limits. They told us it's already been done. So we weren't involved in the process up front either. So we were basically forced to change on the shared roads with West Haven.
So 51.
Yeah, oh, shared parts of 43 and 47 as well. And not the whole road, but parts of it. So it's kind of like, you know, it would have been nice to maybe meet with them too and discuss, you know, our options and let the community kind of input, but we really, that's right out of our hands.
4700, after I learned that they only voted to change it on 5100. Not on, but still going from 25 to 30 was a little bit easier for residents than going from 25 to 35. So if we would have changed it the same at West Haven, it would have gone up to 35. So even with that, going to 30 is probably a little bit easier for those residents than having it to the town. Is there anybody else that wanted to make a comment?
I'm down with 5518 west, 4350 south. If you're gonna change the speed limit, my personal opinion is it won't help. Because I've lived on that road, I drive on that road, and I have been followed, tailgated all the way down that road. And it's not the people that live in the area, it's the people that go from 5500 west to the new subdivision at the north end. I can promise that. The other one is all the high school kids early in the morning they're late for school, so what do? They speed down 5,500. I sat there and watched them. So that's the whole thing that I look at, is that if we're gonna change it to 30 miles an hour or 35. Then we need to have police there. That will catch people, not in the middle of the day, but when they're going home from work, or going to work, or going to school, or home from school. Because it's not gonna do any good, it's just like the corner of the city office buildings. I've been on that corner and I see the signs that says, oh, no parking. And what do I see? 7 or 8 cars parked there all the time. When they're doing football or soccer. Doesn't change. Nobody's doing anything different. So unless we can get police there, changing the speed limit's not gonna do any good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I'm like your wife. I'm Andrew Warwood. I live at 5201 West, 4175 South. I was not pleasantly surprised to see it at 30. I do empathize with some of the people that live on 5100 West. I'm one of the ones that goes 40 miles an hour down that road. And I drive it at 5:30 in the morning when there's nobody else there. I've never seen a cop, which isn't fine. I'm not accusing the sheriff, but I know that they're short-handed right now. But I guess my concern is similar to what Dan said is. I've never seen a cop on that road, and every morning I'm tailgated on 5100 West because I go 40 miles an hour. This week, I actually saw the sign and I thought, am I hallucinating? They're flashing saying when I came home from work one day, and I said, am I hallucinating? I was going 43, I think, and I said, no, I haven't been going 43. So that's the 3 that was in my mind. And then my wife said, hey, did you see on Facebook that it changed to 30 miles an hour? And I'm thinking, what? I've driven 5100 West and 5500 West for the last, well, since I've got my driver's license, before, learned from it. It's always been 4 miles an hour. Somebody must be high or, up in the night. And it's not. And it's only, I calculated it, I'm dork. I live all the way at the end of, north end of 5100, and I drive to 5500 South, and then I hang a left on 5500 West in the mornings. It's only a minute in the morning, and it's a minute at night. The difference for me. The problem is I've been almost run off the road twice this week, going 30 miles an hour. And I almost go 35 just to not get run off the road. I've been passed once, and I had 5 cars behind me the other morning at 5:30 in the morning. And I don't know how many of you drive at 5:30 in the morning. It's not rush hour, normally. So my concern is similar, like, I'm concerned with the 30. I think 35 would be okay. I think that's happy medium, but I'm more concerned with the fact that if we don't find a way to work with the sheriff's department to get more deputies in Hooper patrolling our roads, people are still gonna be 60 miles an hour like I've seen them do on 5100 and 4100 or more. They're just going to continue to do that, and then it puts us at even a greater risk of difference in speed, which is factored in wrecks. And I don't see very many wrecks on 5100 West or 5500 West. And so that's where I'm more concerned with, have we made a decision to change it to 30? And that's gonna cause more accidents or more issues if we don't enforce it. So thank you for your time, and hopefully you make the right decision, whatever that is.
Thank you.
Stacy Yates, and I'm a resident here in Hooper. I don't currently live on 5500, but I do have kids that walk to the park and ride their bike to the park and walk to Sinclair and ride their bike to Sinclair, and there's no sidewalks. I guess I don't really see what the harm is in lowering the speed limit. I realize it's gonna take people a little bit of time to recognize that the speed limit is slower, but if it's going to help keep speeds down and help keep our kids safer, I don't really see why this is an issue with people. And also just, I did the math on it, I like math, it's a difference of 1 minute. It takes a minute longer to drive 30 from 4,000 to 55. So it's not going to make a huge difference in people's lives if they're driving 30 versus 40. So anyway, that's my thoughts on it. I would like to see it lowered. I see a lot of kids on that road. My kids are ones included on that, and I don't want them clipped off on the side of the road because there's no sidewalks. So they're riding their bike, they're on the road. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry. I'm just gonna say it only takes you 40 seconds to a minute, depending on how fast you accelerate, and you take off from 40,055. But, and then also in Weaver County, it used to be 35 over there. It used to be 35 miles an hour, and it changed to 30, something changed. But then, like, the stopping distance from 30 miles an hour to 40 miles an hour, you're what, 110 to 165? The stopping distance. You know, and you got the park out here, the kids, the parking, the parking right out to the back of the road. The kids can dart out, right there, and just being slower, I think it'd be a safer deal for the park, and kids walking to school, they walk over there in West Haven, they're walking from there to the new elementary there. There's no sidewalks along any of it. No, turn lanes or nothing like that, So, something to think about, I guess. Thank you.
Anybody else? Have a comment? Okay, if not, we need a motion then to bring that back to our regular meeting.
So,
Okay, motion was made by Councilmember Hill. Is it seconded? Seconded by Councilmember Maragoni. Okay, the meeting now comes back through a discussion amongst the council.
I mean, my whole thing all along has been public safety, that's why we put the signs up right here on the corner. It's gonna be a little bit clearer with the triangle for people coming before Toledo 4600 on the busy Saturdays to see past all the like cars. But we put the signs up, and like was said, people still park there, so the whole problem is enforcement. You can put up all the signs in the world, say whatever, speed limit, parking, et cetera, but if we don't enforce that, it doesn't do any good. So we appreciate the sheriff's department, we understand the volume we're in. That's the one. Right, so what, back to public safety is, as was mentioned, when the city center was passed, however many times, delegated, and however many times. Is that safer than the alternative of just going to 40? Or is it safer to hopefully be enforced someday that will catch, fix all that? Does that make sense? I mean, so which is more unsafe?
Yeah, because you get a lot of impatient people, as Andrew stated, that I think can cause a lot of safety issues as well. And then there's a certain demographic that likes to pass me, and I don't mention they're much younger than me, but and it's like, hey, so there again, are they gonna be passing safely because they're impatient? Is that gonna outweigh, us lowering the speed limit? And I think when people are going, because I've driven that road 30 miles an hour, and they went 35 and they went 40, so I kind of know my thought process. Me as just a person, like going 30 miles an hour sometimes is a little irritating, I'll be honest with you, especially when no one else is on the road. 35, it seemed to be, I was okay with that, 40, I'm okay with that as well, because I tend to try to be a safe driver, but I'm a little concerned about the 30. I mean, just my opinion. I think sometimes slowing the speed limit is not gonna make it safer, even though we want to think it does. Enforcement is probably the act, but, I don't know, what's your thoughts?
Well, living on that road, I do have to say that things have slowed down some. There are still those that are gonna go 60, but they're gonna go 60 and then what? But things have quieted down some. We can actually go in our front yard and talk, which we never have been able to do. And Lieutenant, could you tell everybody about the special unit within the sheriff's department that is dependent upon staffing that we have for this speeding issues and things?
So the traffic unit, I guess just to catch up on 5100 West, they have been giving the grace period. And that's been standard practice as long as I've been a cop. If we put in a new citation, stop sign, if we lower a speed limit, we give about a 30-day grace period where we say, we're not gonna issue warning citations, make the traffic stop, educate the public, give you a warning citation. Along 5100 West, which is the reason West 8th and Hooper and the county changed that, was for the school crossing there. So that drivers are at 30 miles an hour when they have to slow down if they don't see the crossing guard that currently doesn't have proper crossing. They're not dynamiting the brakes from 40 to 20, they're slowing from 30 to 20, just trying to improve safety for the kids walking to the new elementary school. The traffic unit has been on that road issuing the warning citations. They will for the first month, and Dave even said that by and large, the average speed right now is 40 miles an hour along 5100 West. To your point, we have had a 58 and a 54, which they've got a citation for the 18 over, not the 28 over that they were at. So they cited them based off of the old speed limit to give them a little bit of a grace on that. But they didn't get a citation because they were grossly in violation of the old speed limit that was higher at the time. So you lower the speed limit on 55, we would do the exact same thing, tell a traffic unit, hey, go out, educate the public, 30-day grace period, tell the patrol the same thing if you're out there trying to make some traffic stops. That's essentially what the traffic unit's for. We have 2 on per day. One works 7 to 7, the other one works 10 to 10, and they try and hit every area that they can.
And they do it, they're very effective. Watching them. They're very effective at their job, and that's all that they do. And I think that a lot of people have a misconception that since the sheriff's department is staffed a little lower right now, that prevents deputies from giving out tickets and that, but this special unit, that's all they do. Thank you.
Any other comments, discussion?
Well, I'm not really partial, living across from the park, because there's always a concern when cars start parking along the east of this park, and there's a lot of kids walking up and down the road, waiting for their parents, or their parents waiting for the kids. So I really don't have a problem with it being 30 miles an hour, but I would go along with what Councilman Hill said. It's not the sign that's making it safe, it's driving. And so I think we'd have to rely on the sheriff's department to make sure for a while that our 30 mile an hour speed limit sign, that we're pretty serious about that. I mean, that's what it means, and we hope that everybody will comply with that. And same with the parking sign here on the corner. There's no question if people park clear to the intersection, when you pull up to the intersection, you can't see. So that's my thing, having a park right here where there is a lot of youth, a lot of kids in the summertime. It would be a lot safer if people were driving slower. So, but 40 miles an hour seems slow too, but maybe at 30 miles an hour. Anyway, we need to just get serious about enforcing those speed limits. So.
Well, and I think sometimes, as it's been said, if the speed limit's 30, they may go 40, but when it's 40, then they think, oh, we can go faster. So people are going actually 48, maybe 50, and so I agree, if we are seriously, and we change this to 30. And again, I'm also, of course, partial because I live on 5,500, but besides that, I am leaving this building a lot of the days. And like you mentioned, Councilmember Fowler's, when there's things in the park and the cars are parked along the east side of the park, that when kids are getting outside of their cars, they are right on the edge of the street. And we actually have a little more room on that side. You walk up and down this road, and some places, there is very little room to get off this side of the road. You get further if you go south of 4,600, and it really is hard, the distance from the edge of the road to where you can walk. And I know as an adult, as I've walked, I usually end up stopping, or as I'm driving, I actually slow way down to go around them because there's really nowhere for them to walk. So if it's something we can do, we really pride ourselves in being a rural community, then I feel like let's try to keep it a rural community and let's get our speed limits down to where they can be manageable and people will get used to it. And if we could have someone out here patrolling and, you know, we can maybe see if we could get some signs from UDOT and actually post them on the streets that say 30 miles upcoming, that would hopefully help.
So my feeling is maybe we track them back and have a happy medium and patrol the same way, after 4 or 5 miles an hour, you get a ticket.
If we change to 35, where it'll be the only collector road in Hereford that's 35, and everywhere else would be 30.
Pay attention.
So I think if we're ready to change it to 35, there's no reason to not just have it be 30 and have them, and then people
Well,
just know.
so
Yeah.
that's what.
Sure.
Well, I truly wish we would have been involved in the negotiations with
Yeah,
the state from the beginning.
Right.
Now, our opinion mattered too,
Sure.
at that point, but it was too late now, right? And so, I don't know, 30 to 30, I mean, I kind of thought the same thing, 35 was a happy medium. But, where a lot of the decisions for us have been made on 4700 West and 5100 West, that was kind of something we had to do, just to, you can't have a speed limit going north different than the one going south, so it's just a no-brainer, but 5500 is exclusive to, so we do have that decision with us. But anyway, we're splitting hairs, if we come 30 to 35 and 35 to 40. Like we mentioned, it takes 45 seconds to a minute or maybe. But I mean, it's truly up to the individual to decide how fast they're gonna go.
Well, is there any further discussion? If not, if someone would like to make a motion?
Is it a motion item tonight?
It is a motion item tonight. I'll leave that one. I'd like to make a motion that this be limit on 5500 West to 30 miles. Do we have a motion made by Councilmember Maragoni? Is there a second?
I will second.
Second is made by Councilmember Hill. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Um,
You're in
Aye.
favor? So there is 3 in favor, correct? Okay, so the motion carries. Okay. So the next thing on our agenda is a discussion and a motion on 5900 West material costs, and we have Taylor Stoffer here, our city engineer from JUB, that will do that presentation for us.
Okay, I just first like to introduce myself as Taylor Stoffer. Have been working with Hooper City for over a year as a consultant responsibilities. recently is kind of taken over the city engineer responsibilities, and so nice to meet you guys and be working together a lot in the future. Yeah, so I came here today to talk about this 5900 West storm drain improvements project. This project, to kind of help you guys remember what happened back in July of 2022, it has to deal with Greens Landing Phase 1 subdivision. As part of their developers agreement, I'll just read this as is stated in the agreement. The developer agrees that in lieu of constructing a landscaped detention basin for this subdivision, that the developer will provide labor and equipment for the construction of a new storm drain outfall from the western boundary of this subdivision to the existing outfall ditch in 5900 West near 3800 South. Developer also agrees to donate $10,000 in cash to be used in conjunction with this storm drain work. So, that was before my time here, but that was an agreement that has already been made by, with the city, between the developer and the city. Maybe I'll go with this now. So that means that the city was had agreed to purchase the materials and our contractor would install them. So we came up with a cost estimate of what that would be. And actually, I really need to apologize because I sent this out a while ago, and the number right there says that this would be $820,000. But while sitting here, just kind of reviewing, QCing my stuff, I actually found a very significant mistake because the price of the pipe in there is the cost to purchase and install, where we only agreed to purchase the pipe. So I hurried and changed that because I've gotten quotes from Oldcastle and Geneva concrete pipe. So we can actually put those actual numbers in there. And that significantly changed the cost to $612,000. So first of all, that shows you what kind of deal that the city actually is getting to make these improvements. That it's over $200,000 just in pipe costs. And hopefully it's even lower than that. But so with this cost estimate, I'm guessing this is more kind of just for budgetary. I mean, for you guys to know that if this needs to be budgeted, this much money needs to be budgeted for this project, and then the city can go out and purchase this materials. Would it be helpful if I showed you guys what the project is consisting of? Would you like to see? We have engineered plans ready to go.
Before, I've got a couple of questions.
You bet.
You're looking at this page right here, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I have a question like mobilization, trap control. Are you listing that as part of the materials?
Yes, that would be part of the materials. Traffic control for sure. The contractor didn't agree to do the traffic control. We have to make that part of.
We agreed with labor and equipment. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, and maybe I don't know that.
It's like mobilization. That's part of
Yeah, so
there's.
I could see that.
There's 4, 5 mobilization, traffic control, SWIFT. Public involvement group. I don't know. What is that? Public involvement group.
That is a part of the JUB. We usually have some employees that are ones that are working with the residents to talk to them about road closures on their streets, times when their driveways aren't going to be accessible, times when the water is going to be shut off, agreements that had to be made between I think Mr. Berger is his name, so that we could adjust the alignment of the storm drain. So that's the number we factored in there for that. That there is it's a time and materials thing that we would kind of go with. It wouldn't be a lump sum of $45,000, but for the time that we said, hey, well, we have the Langdon group go out there and do this, inform the residents about this. That would be included in the budget.
So did Jared review this with you by chance?
Jared and I worked together on this, yes.
I'm just curious about those.
Yeah, and a lot of these items did come from Jared. And a lot of these costs came from me, so. Cost estimations, I would say.
I feel like there could be still a little negotiating on those labor types of things, because as I recall, the reason, I think the city kind of agreed to this arrangement, labor versus materials. Is when Hooper Landings was installed, they were required to put in a detention pond. But the level, with depth of the detention pond, because of the high water table there, would always have water in it. In other words, it wouldn't detain water for a while. It would always have water in it. So it was kind of agreed then that rather than put in a detention pond, we would pipe that ditch. So there'd be an outfall for the, the storm drains and that would put in that subdivision. So as far as the developer putting in the, providing the labor, there was something in it for him too. In other words, he didn't have to put in a detention pond. And so those labor items, I believe, could be negotiated with them as part of the installation rather than materials. So I'd like to suggest that we do that, because you brought up those costs, Councilman Wilcox, and I think it's a good point that maybe he could share in that.
And I would say that, this agreement was made in 2022, and that might actually be the last time we've actually talked to this guy. At least I haven't talked to this contractor about this agreement. Maybe someone else has, but yeah, he hasn't seen this list yet. So that definitely needs to happen.
Yeah, and we hadn't seen that list as it is currently. So, I think my opinion is he could share in the cost of that labor, if not all the cost of the labor in installation.
Yeah.
And then we would go ahead with the materials. With the pipe.
Yeah.
Materials being the pipe.
Well, to your point, because that area is not a detention basin, now it's actually a
A
building
building
lot.
lot.
So he's making money on the detention basin piece of property.
Yeah. And I just point out that time is critical in this point. They are in phase 2. They have final approval for phase 2, I believe. And they're probably constructing. We just really don't want them to be done and then be gone, and it might be really a lot harder to get them back. And that also incentivizes him we can pressure on him to incentivize it to get this project done as well.
Jared had mentioned that he thought the labor was about, like you take the total cost of the project, the labor is about half and the materials half. And so when Jared talked to us about it in the staff meeting, he said it felt like this was probably a $1.5 million project. So to have the developer say that he would pay for the labor costs, and again, just like you said, he didn't want him to be done, and then that's then be responsible for the entire cost of the project.
Yeah.
Maybe you can mention to us about the grant.
This is a grant that we became aware of, rural opportunity development grant, I think is what it was called. Check that. Rural Community Opportunity Grant. Where we applied for $600,000 in grant with a 20% match. So by receiving that $600,000, we would still be on the hook for $120,000. But the way we thought about it was we were on the hook for $600,000 in the first place. So really didn't see an opportunity, a downside to at least applying for it, getting 80% of this paid for. So that application has been put in. I'm not sure about the timeline when we'd hear back from it, but if that were the case, then we got a really huge discount on it.
So your thought on that, if we approve the money. So that, you know, we lock in funding for the materials. And then the grant becomes available. I mean, will that be for the possibility of getting a grant if they know we've already allocated the funding for it? Or did you even have you already applied for it, did you say?
We've already applied for it, and that wasn't one of the requirements that they asked or questions they asked as part of the application, so.
You could make that part of the motion, though. You could say contingent on approval or disapproval of the grant.
I actually asked Tammy about this too, when we received this and said, where do we pull this money from? If we don't get a grant, and she said it would have to come out of our capital projects, and if you go back to your financials, there is money in there. This is a substantial amount. It is. So I guess.
The ARPA too, right, when you said we
Yes,
already
we
all
are.
locked the money.
So best case scenario, we get the grant, we move the ARPA, then but if we don't get the grant, which is no guarantee, but then again, we have to look at it, and this, I guess, you know, we already have signed the development agreement in 2022. I don't know, it's a lot of money, but it's half, I guess, of what it will be if he completes the development.
Yeah, and I mean. What I would say is, I mean, if we choose not to spend the money, I'd say leave it how it is. Now that subdivision has, I don't know how many homes was in it, now it has 0 detention, 0 capacity in the storm drain, so. First of all, that we did agree to it, but the second of all is, there's really not a good no action option. So.
Not to mention that pipe takes in more water, more, you know, runoff water than just the storm drain in that subdivision. It goes quite a ways south.
Yeah.
So.
We motion on this as a block, actually the total amounts that change anyway, right?
Yeah.
So we just motion to approve it, and there's some negotiation on things, labor costs, line items. You're getting us a final number.
Yeah.
This sort of looking on.
Yeah.
Project move forward.
I don't know how this all works. I'm kind of new with how city budgets work, but just to begin purchasing pipe and manholes, possibly other materials, that we could start making those purchases, I think is important.
Maybe that's a Brandon question. If we could make a motion to move forward with this project without an amount. Or we have to actually plug in an amount that could change.
But it sounds like it's going to change.
But well, yes.
Is Brandon on the?
He never popped on. I don't know.
Morgan, last few then.
I don't want. I don't want this.
So I did get quotes from Old Castle in Geneva for the concrete structures. I mean, most of these numbers I did, but are estimates, and I definitely could go in and try to figure out more solid, get quotes from suppliers. That would get a lot firmer numbers that we guys would like me to do.
Sounds like start purchasing pipe.
Yeah. Right.
I don't think we can say what it is because we don't know what it is. We just need to approve the purchasing of materials to get the project started.
Yeah, I mean, usually those are 4 to 6 weeks out anyway, so.
Because mobilization isn't a material, so not necessarily on the hook for that, the pipe we are. Right. So, yeah, that's nice.
Any other questions for Taylor? Is there someone ready to make a motion then? Do we need more discussion? Yes.
Well, I would go ahead and make a motion that we approve the project on 5900 West for the cost of materials.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilmember Bowers. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Second was made by Councilmember Wilcox. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and for the last thing on our agenda is about the senior lunches, and I know Debbie, you had asked once about what that would be, and then never made a motion to begin to elect it. And since then, there's also been something else that's came up, and so again, I tried to do a mayor's report to kind of report on this. And since the time we brought this up, so just for everyone's information, Weaver Human Services used to provide meals here at Cooper City every Thursday. And it was a suggested donation of $4. With federal cutbacks, they were no longer able to do that. And ours was one of the centers that they said they were no longer going to provide the meals. Oh, two parts of this. We had already discussed about supporting the Roy Hillside Senior Center. And at the time, I believe they told us it was $2,000 that we had discussed. Since then, I actually received this information from Mayor Dan Roy in Roy, and they said that there needs to be 12,000 additional dollars in order to keep their center going. So Roy currently has a budget of $80,000 yearly for their senior center, and so they're asking West Haven, ourselves, and Roy to each pay $4,000 annually to keep the Roy Center going. And he included this chart that is on the back of this report that shows, because at the time when Ryan and I went to a meeting, we actually asked, and these are the numbers that they gave us. So and these are monthly numbers, 19 that are attending the Golden Hours, which is in Ogden, 2 that are attending the Northview, which is North Ogden and Pleasant View combined, 28 that are attending Roy, 9 that are attending Washington Terrace, and it's Washington Terrace, South Ogden combined, for a total of 58 of our Hooper residents that are actually attending these other centers every month. But that is something that he asked if I would bring it to our city council to vote on. So that's one part of it. So they're asking for us to give $4,000 annually. So again, this is our vote, and then it will also depend if West Haven votes to approve the 4,000 and Roy City Council approves to do the additional 4,000. Okay, so in addition to that, this other part. So we now are having lunch for our seniors the first and third Wednesday of every month. We have a catering that is done by, no, I don't remember the name of it. I know Simpson's Catering. Okay, thank you. And this is by Katie Gail Simpson. They are catering the meals for $15 a meal. The suggested donation again is $4 a meal. Chris Morris and Blair Cottle, they had arranged for donations, and so Hooper City has already received $1,250 in donations to help cover these meals. And what we would be responsible for then is $11 a meal to cover one of the Wednesdays. So we would be covering for 12 meals. And so I did it at the 15 residents. Yesterday, we probably had close to 15 residents, and they had a really nice Thanksgiving dinner that included all of the fixings. And so if you take the 15 residents a month times $11, that comes to the $165 a month, or this budget of $1,980 for the year for us to pay for our seniors for one meal a month. And so our total allocation, if we add up those, would be $4,000 that we would be giving to Roy. We'd actually be giving it to Weaver Human Services, but it would be to keep the Roy Center open, and then also the $1,980.
So 6,000.
A year.
Okay, 6,000.
Yeah. Would be $6,000 a year.
So 2 questions on the Roy Center. If we don't give them the 4,000, do they just tell our people they can't come there anymore? And then check the ID at the door, or what do they cost?
You know, I don't know, and I think what will happen if, because we don't know, like we said, if West Haven and if Roy are going to approve to pay this either. So that's a good question, Ryan, I don't know, if all of us say no, because what we were Human Services, we were at that meeting, they really debated about how they were going to keep open, and like they said, and you know, I put this in here, they said, well, there's cities that are already helping each other out. Like they said, you know, South Ogden, Washington Terrace, and so, excuse me, they think it's understandable that we help out. Roy, so with that, answer your question is Ryan, I don't know.
That was just, you know, so my second question is. When we went to the meeting, Weaver Human Services wanted to keep open currently 3 centers, correct? And then eventually go to 2, correct? Roy was one of those centers that are trying to keep open, so they already get funds, budget money from Weaver Human Services to stay open. Oh, right. So why are they asking us now for more?
So I think that by the time they finally got through the cutting block, I don't know that Roy made it.
They did not make it.
So I think according to this email I received from Mayor Dan Joy,
They're budgeting the whole thing from Roy City.
yeah, they would have to budget the whole thing from their city.
That doesn't make any sense. I mean, that facility was built specifically for seniors in the area, the whole area. And that, who knows what it cost initially, right?
Yeah, I know they received a grant because back then they allowed grants.
Yeah.
And like I said, he said they're already in their budgeting, they've already budgeted 80,000 a year, which they will continue to do. So I think they're thinking that they will no longer have a center unless the surrounding ones are willing to go in on it.
So like Riverdale is self-sustaining.
Riverdale's self-sustaining.
So the 2 that Weaver County is gonna support is which ones? The North Ogden?
I don't know, and they, one time they talked about maybe even being able to keep 3 going.
Yeah.
So I suspect it'd probably be the North Ogden one, the Washington
Yes.
Terrace, and the Ogden, which is the Golden Towers.
Okay. I don't know how we're supporting, you know?
Yeah, and like I said, I told him what we plan on doing for existing centers and some level of financial collaboration. I quoted that from like Mayor Danbury. So I told him I would ask. It has to be a city council vote on what we want to do with that.
So Roy City is in effect supporting it with $84,000 a year. West Haven for.
Yeah. Yes. Because also in this email, he said he went back to Weaver Human Services and said, you have to give me some kind of amount. I can't just go to these other cities and say, will you support this? When we're not even telling them how much money we're asking them for. And so then that's when they told him that we would give 4,000.
And here's the other argument. You look at the numbers in this chart. And Logan is like number 3 in attendance for total seniors attending. Actually, number 2. They have 588 members of the community attending various places. To their own center, they have 484 people from their own community going to that center. Number 1 is Ogden, full now in 8 quarters, 1,056. But Roy's like number 2 on that low chart. So why in the world would Weaver support the number 2 attendance center in the whole thing county? That's where's the commissioner? We got questions.
Yeah. Well, and he said too that they just said the other ones have support from other cities and Roy does not have financial support from other cities.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting meeting last time we went to, wasn't it, Brian?
And so that 72,000 mark, is that far off?
These are.
Well, you know.
That's kind of stress.
Just do it for a year and see how it goes.
Mine is the plan. This is kind of get this figured out. We talked about a lot of things here, but I don't know if we're. I don't know if I don't know if I understand. What we're getting out of this. How much we're going to get for what we have to pay.
West Haven almost has. 40% more than us.
And it's guys.
What did they need to know by?
I don't know, he just sent it to me and asked me if I would get it approved through the city council. I could go back to the, I don't remember a specific time. He might have said that in his email. I just told him I would bring it up to city council. And I don't know if it was on West Haven's agenda last night, if they voted on it or not. I don't know that. But I'm certainly sure we could wait until our next city council meeting if we want to hear more or find out more. What about the other part with the meals? Are we okay with the $11, that budget for our seniors? So that would be the $165 a month and $19.80 a year for our seniors to provide that one meal once a month. We already, I think, at one time approved that, but we didn't have an exact amount. Rides every day, they have food every day, and they have an activity every day. And clearly some of our residents do. Ryan and I joked, we need to stand at the door. So if you're from Hooper, you can't come in. No, that's a joke. We love our seniors. We love our seniors. But we were surprised, weren't we, Ryan, when they gave us these numbers, because we both questioned that and said, we don't have anybody from Hooper coming, and then they pulled up this chart and said, yes, you do.
They take roll. I think that.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with the second one. It's, with the one we all want. I mean, we talked about that already, so. I'm okay with, I don't know, if we need to amend the budget, or is that just? Money. It's 1980.
Yeah, we did talk about $2,000. I remember specifically talking about that in the session, so.
And I don't know, that's something we certainly ask county. I don't know if we have something even under a general expense. I don't know where we get that money from. That's certainly a county's question. And we don't need to decide on that either tonight, because like I say, we already have this $1,250 that's paying for the meals now. And we only started the first
October, September, I think. I don't remember.
Yeah.
September.
So we certainly haven't gone through that money yet, but we have donated. And they certainly said they could go out and try to get more donations.
So we're going from first and third Wednesdays to only once a month.
No, they're still in the first and third, but people are donating it for one of the weeks, and we're just donating one of the weeks. And we're only donating $11 of it because then the people are paying $4. $4. So Chris and Blair went around to community members and had donations, or a couple of businesses that have already donated $1,250.
And you have to do it next month.
Just, no, because that much with that and what the seniors pay, and if we do the 1980, that's covered for the entire year.
So we'll have to talk about CIP.
Yeah, probably we would, the next year, July's budget, and we probably really, it's like we said, starting in July, so we probably are okay for a little bit, but it would be good, and that's what, you got it ready without getting the budget number, so we can approve it. So maybe we ought to just wait till the next one and check the county on the money and see the best place for the problem. Yeah, and then we can find out more information, and in the meantime, I can let Rob know we tabled it, if that's the motion you want to make until next meeting. And then we can find out if Lloyd, because he said he doesn't know if his city council is going to approve 401,000 either. where they're already doing the 80.
I'd like to know if we were just decided, I don't know if you said it also, was that, so they decided to alienate Roy, basically, this is what we're thinking.
That's what we're thinking, but that would be a good question to have answered as well.
Right.
Okay, so is there a motion then? I'll make a motion that we table the discussion on the discussion on the senior lunches until our next meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, motion was made by Councilmember Maragoni, seconded by Councilmember Keel. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, that is the last thing on our agenda other than public comments. Are there any public comments tonight? Seeing no public comments, is there someone that would like to make an motion to adjourn?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion was made by Councilmember Powers. Is there a second? Motion second was made by Councilmember Maragoni. All in favor? Aye. Motion is adjourned. Thank you for making it.